The Karam tribe was known across the ancient forests as the most dangerous and most feared people ever to walk the Forgotten Lands, and their story began with a silence so deep and so unnatural that even the animals of the valley refused to make a sound whenever the crimson wind passed through the treetops, and the elders of neighboring tribes spoke of nights when the air itself felt heavy, as if the spirits were holding their breath, waiting, listening for the footsteps of the Karam. Warriors who moved like smoke through the darkness, their bodies painted in red clay, their eyes reflecting the moonlight like the eyes of wolves, and everyone who lived near the edges of the Karam territory understood one rule better than any law written by man: never follow the Crimson Wind, because the Crimson Wind always led to death and destruction, and the Karam believed that the world beyond the trees belonged to the living, but the shadows beneath the branches belonged to something older and far more powerful, and they claimed to speak with these ancient spirits, seeking guidance before battle, before hunting, and even before childbirth. And every decision the tribe made was rooted in the teachings of these unseen forces, and those teachings were often cruel and often terrifying and were obeyed without hesitation by every member of the tribe, no matter how painful or dangerous the command might have been, and historians who study the Karam today still argue whether these spirits were real, or whether the tribe had been consumed by fear, superstition, and madness. But one truth stands firm: the Karam tribe became powerful because they believe in fear more deeply than any other nation of their time, and they used this fear as a weapon, a shield, and a language of dominance across the land. The earliest stories describing the Karam were not written by the tribe themselves because they left behind no official record, no carvings of kings, no symbols of glory, no tales of victory etched in a stone. Their history survived only through the trembling voices of those who narrowly escaped their territory, and through the legends whispered around fires by tribes who dared not speak too loudly in case the Crimson Wind was listening. And according to these accounts, the Karam warriors trained from childhood in absolute silence, learning to step without snapping twigs, breathing without shaking leaves, focusing for hours in total stillness until they could blend into the night like shadows of predators. And when they finally entered adulthood, they underwent the ritual of the silent hunt, during which they were released into the forest alone, without weapons, and forced to survive for 7 days, relying only on instinct and cunning. And any who returned from the silent hunt were marked by the spirits as worthy warriors, and those who failed simply vanished, becoming one more secret absorbed by the forest that guarded the Karam with jealous hunger. The Karam tribe believed that fear was the purest form of truth, and they taught that a person who felt no fear was either dead or cursed, and so they studied fear like scholars studied language, and they learned to manipulate it in ways that baffled neighboring nations and struck terror into every heart. And before attacking a village, the Karam would often remain unseen for days, making strange markings on trees, leaving piles of stones in unnatural shapes, placing feathers in the paths of hunters, and allowing their eerie crimson whistles to drift through the night. And by the time the attack finally came, the victims were already broken by dread, their strength weakened, their minds shaking. And this was the true power of the Karam. They defeated their enemies before the first spear was thrown, and many tribes abandoned entire regions after the Karam passed, through leaving behind fertile land and hunting grounds because no resource was worth the price of attracting the attention of the Crimson Wind. The most terrifying chapter of the Karam history is the event known as the Night of Falling Embers, a night so strange and so impossible that even modern historians cannot explain it, and all the surviving oral traditions agree on one detail: the sky itself seemed to burn, and hundreds of tiny glowing sparks drifted down onto the Karam lands, lighting up the forest with red shimmer, and witnesses for miles away said the forest glowed like a giant breathing ember, and yet no fires spread, no trees burned, no ashes drifted. And when morning came, the entire Karam settlement was empty, not destroyed, not charred, simply empty, as if every man, woman, and child had walked into the shadows and dissolved into the air, and all that remained were the same warning symbols carved deeply into stone: do not follow the Crimson Wind.